So, Dr. S. Morton McPhail is the new president of SIOP. Mort holds a doctorate in industrial and organizational psychology from the Colorado State University. He retired as a senior vice president from CEB-SHL after serving in a similar role at Valterra and before that at Generette and Associates. In his 35 years as a consultant, he has worked with a wide variety of public and private sector clients on issues ranging from selection, training and development, performance assessment to termination. He has served as an expert in litigation involving such diverse issues as job analysis, selection practices, equal employment opportunity, compensation, and reductions in force. He is adjunct faculty for the University of Houston and also Rice University, and he's on the editorial board of IOP and SIOP's Professional Practice book series. I ask you to join me in please welcoming President Mort McPhail.
Thank you, Steve.
We need a good passing of the gavel for
We need a good passing of the gavel.
the historical record. So, a moment. I'm passing.
Oh, we got it.
It's one of those training and development rehearsal kinds of things.
Steve, we appreciate your exquisite, fine leadership of SIOP for the last year, and we'd like to recognize that with
Thanks.
thank you. Thank you, Steve.
Recollect that.
I'm good. I want to start by thanking Eden for bringing us Laszlo and such an inspiring and interesting presentation and making my job 3 times harder. Thank you very much. I must confess that I undertake this new role with mixed emotions. I'm saddened by the reason that I'm here, and I'll miss my colleague, Jim. At the same time, I'm honored to be asked to serve as your president, and I'm committed to fulfilling this office in a way that validates your trust. As I approached the task of preparing for today, I did what all of us were trained to do when addressing a new problem. I went back and read or reread a lot of what other people had written. I examined closely, or at least as closely as 3 weeks would allow me, the work that so many committed people have been doing over the last year and previous years. Since I left the executive board in 2011 as financial officer, my tenure as financial officer ended, an amazing amount of work has occurred. Even more amazingly, there's still a lot of work to be done, primarily because the world just won't stand still. It keeps presenting us with new challenges and opportunities. Having Laszlo here was serendipitous. I didn't even have to prompt him to set me up for this presentation. I plan to talk about change and what implies change more than Google. From my perspective, Google itself is a change. For almost the first 20 years of my career after graduate school, there was no such thing as Google. When I started consulting, we still went to the library to look things, to look things up. And high tech was having a modem connection to the university mainframe computer. Still remember that frying bacon sound. Indeed, for some time I've been thinking about how things have changed since I entered this profession. My wife says that's because I'm getting old and not a little curmudgeonly. I, on the other hand, think that I've gained, well, if not wisdom, at least a little perspective. In any case, it's clear to me that change is the only constant. No one can dispute that we live in a changing world where organizations and the work that people do in them are changing rapidly. Moreover, the rate of change appears to be increasing both in the general environment and within organizations. Some of these changes have been happening for some while now. Others are just getting started, and still others are only now being seen. And you may feel free to disagree with me where I've categorized things, but here's a brief and incomplete list of examples of changes in these three categories. And I don't know, thank you. In the category of ongoing changes, we've seen rapidly developing technological changes that are impacting how we go about even those things that are foundational to I/O, such as selection and training, such things as automated testing, virtual reality, gamification, simulations, and adaptive training. Of course, we've seen the redefinition of the meaning of career and the expansion of virtual work environments. We've seen the decreasing half-life of knowledge and the resulting need for continuing education. The automation of higher skilled jobs has accelerated with implications for work redesign and employee retraining. Enormous changes have resulted from economic globalization, and the effects of global climate change on organizations have included new types of jobs, new technologies and geographies, restructuring of organizational priorities, and strategic planning. Changes in risk profiles across multiple business sectors. In the category of just getting started, I would include the interaction of virtual communication and teamwork. Even more broadly have been the changes in expectations from work and in economic aspirations. We are only beginning, in my judgment, to see the impact of social media on issues ranging from definitions of self-worth and privacy expectations to functions like selection and recruitment and concerns about person-organization boundaries. And the impact of massive data accumulations on a plethora of organizational and individual variables is only at an early stage. Further out, I might hypothesize the impacts of changes that are now on the horizon. And I admit I may be behind the times. Changes in how we view science in an era of big data and what impacts that may have for both our epistemology and our ethics. The acceptance of terrorism as a continuing risk factor that must be assumed. The development of artificial intelligences that may result in automation of many management functions. Now, this list doesn't even include all of the topics listed on SIOP's top 10 workplace trends for 2016. I'd encourage you to take a look at that list on the website. Now, these changes may be either positive or negative, and are probably some of both. But they, or similar changes, are certainly inevitable. Broad changes at the macro level, such as climate change, economic trends, technology, and global security, ripple down to create changes that affect organizations and individuals. Such change may result in the creation of entirely new organizations, new enterprises, new work structures, in new social interaction models, and in new human skill requirements, and have other implications that we cannot yet even imagine. Our professional society must be willing and able to adapt to both the rate of change and to the changes themselves. Fortunately, our science has shown itself to be highly resilient, adaptable, and broadly applicable to emerging problems in organizations of many types. So how do we prepare for the future? I have 4 goals for the coming year. First, I want us to celebrate what we've done already. We have been fortunate as a society and as a profession to have had leadership with vision and insight that has worked diligently to expand our footprint, enhance our reputation, and advance our science and practice. We have literally hundreds of our members working on initiatives, projects, task forces, serving on committees, and continuing our efforts to have impact and prepare for the future. During the next year, I want us to become even more broadly aware of what has already been accomplished and to celebrate the progress that we've made. Among the many things that we've accomplished as a society for the future include development of an advocacy function and the infrastructure in Washington to increase the awareness of what our field has to offer and to ensure our inclusion in policy discussions and research funding decisions. We've obtained status as an NGO with the United Nations, allowing us to weigh in on issues such as decent work. We've prepared updated guidelines for graduate education that'll be voted on tomorrow at the EB meeting that look to the future of graduate education. We've linked SIOP with other professional organizations around the world through the Alliance for Organizational Psychology. Secondly, I want us to support the work that is ongoing and needs to be continued. In addition to work well done, a number of initiatives have been undertaken that have implications for SIOP's future, but are not yet complete. During the next year, I want us to maintain focus on these initiatives and to bring them to fruition or ensure their steady progress. Among the many things the Society has initiated for the future, which we will need our sustained effort and support, are the police initiative through our advocacy team, an effort that was begun by Jim Oots. Moreover, with that initiative, we have demonstrated that we have the capacity to marshal expertise and resources to have an impact on the national stage. We need to pursue the work Jim began with the police initiative and work with our advocacy team to identify and pursue other efforts like this one. We need to continue initiatives to translate science and practice, such as the self-organization of members into communities of interest and advocacy, and such as the new practice forum in IOP. Work has begun on the process of updating the principles for the validation and use of employee selection procedures. That's a significant effort, and will continue with all the care and diligence due such an important document. Since 2013, we have included an ongoing column and tip that explores the application of modern technology and social media in the workplace, currently written by Nikki Blacksmith and Tiffany Poppelman, with Evan Sinar soon to replace Nikki. I think their efforts will take on even greater importance as we prepare for the future, and they need to be sustained. Third, I want us to think deeply and carefully about the future to try to identify what might lie ahead. While we are not, well, at least I'm not, accomplished as a fortune teller, fully equipped with a crystal ball, despite what our clients would like to believe. I think it is necessary that we do what we can to look ahead. We will certainly not be right all of the time. No one is. Where is my personal jetpack anyway? But as a profession, I think we need an enduring method for scanning the horizon. Such a mechanism would seek input from a wide array of sources, including hearing from those doing cutting-edge research, asking those facing emerging issues, problems, and concerns in the workplace, reviewing both our own literature and that of our IO colleagues around the world, as well as that of other sciences, listening to, perhaps with a grain of salt, professional futurists, and monitoring current and developing events. Some of this we do already through our surveys of the membership, hence the top 10 list, and the important and valuable efforts of columnists in TIP, whose writings I admit to have plundered shamelessly. But this is a big job. And at this point, we do not have a comprehensive, cohesive, consistent, and intentional way to go about this scanning or to organize and use the information we obtain. I hope during this next year to develop an initial mechanism that will serve us as we seek to surf the wave of the future rather than being swept away by it. And finally, I would like for us to try to identify roadblocks that may be in our path. Even our best efforts at looking to the future will face hurdles. As SIOP works to prepare for and meet the changes ahead, we'll face some challenges. Although I don't really know what they all may be, I can think of a few that I might think will be particularly difficult for us. IO psychologists are as impacted by the faster pace of the 24-hour day caused by proliferating technology and globalization as anyone else, all of which raises concerns of the availability of resources. How will we find the time, energy, and resources for the volunteer and pro bono work that needs to be done? I think the ongoing consolidation in the consulting industry is likely to have unexpected consequences for us if, as expected, it continues. Mind you, I'm not suggesting that such consolidation is necessarily bad or that we can or should try to do anything to stop it. Rather, I'm raising the question of what are the implications of a trend that has been going on for some years and doesn't seem to be ending. Will it increase or decrease job opportunities for IO psychologists? How will the nature of the work that psychologists in very large consulting firms change, or will it? Will there be room for small firms and individual practitioners? The answers to these questions may have significant implications for the nature of education and training and for the aspirations of young psychologists just entering the workplace. This issue also interacts with my point about resources. Will large aggregations of IO psychologists mean more or less support for professional volunteering? If only every company shared their research like Google does. But in fact, we've seen an increasing commoditization of research and research findings, which raises large and somewhat troubling questions for how we will do science in the future. Indeed, it even raises epistemological questions about the nature of science and the process of theory construction, theory testing, and theory reconstruction. Can we find ways of doing science while still protecting legitimate intellectual property issues? What can we learn from the troubles in other professions such as medicine, pharmaceuticals, and genetic research to help us in this regard? Again, I'm not suggesting that we can or should make any effort to stop that change. I'm asking how we can position our profession and our science to adapt to the world as it is becoming. I doubt I will get much disagreement when I assert that change is accelerating and the future will not be like the past. Duh. Nor is the need to prepare IO psychology for the future a startlingly new idea. This profession is vital and energetic and continuously self-renewing. Our science and its application has shown itself to be renewably relevant and consistently innovative. What I want to do is focus our attention on that preparation, to celebrate what we have already done, to support what we are continuing to do, to develop a way to scan and communicate about the horizon, and to identify and address the roadblocks to our preparation. I plan to spend the next 12 months working toward these goals, and I hope you will join me as we deal with today while watching for and shaping tomorrow. Thank you for your attention. I look forward to the coming year serving as your president. And now I'll ask Eden King to tell us what the conference committee has in store for us to wrap up the 31st Annual Conference in California style. Eden?
Next year, SIOP's headed to Florida. Zach Horn's program committee and Daisy Chang as conference chair, they're already hard at work, can you believe it? Creating a fantastic schedule that will inform and inspire. And we're going to close this conference with a fantastic California-style reception. You don't want to miss it. The event will take place just across the hall in just a few minutes, 6 o'clock. Please come and help us celebrate a wonderful conference together. Thank you all for being part of SIOP 2016, and have very safe travels home.